Hey guys, so have you ever said anything to the effect of, well, I'm normally a pretty healthy eater, I do pretty well, it's just that carbs are my weakness, and like I could eat 100% healthy except for bread, like that is my downfall. If you've ever said anything like that, this video is for you. Or if you're just one of those people that maybe you've heard that low carb is the way to go, but then you see people eating carbs and you're just like super confused. What the heck is up with carbs? Are they good? Are they bad? Should you cut them? Should you eat them? I'm talking to you. So if you don't know who I am, my name is Emmy and I am a vegan health coach, and I help people get set up with just really common sense nutrition plans. But before I was that, I was literally that kid. I remember the first time I heard about cutting carbs and decided that I would go like low carb. I think I was 12. Hey Lisa, hey Douglas. And the way it started, I literally heard a ballet instructor of mine mention it, and they were talking about how like, oh, if you just need to drop weight really fast, just cut carbs. And I was like, okay, I'll do that. Even though I was 12 years old and really didn't have any weight to lose at all. And if you can relate to this, if you've ever done the low carb thing, or you've literally just felt guilt about carbs and you beat yourself up every time you eat bread from a bread basket, or you have cake, or you have pasta, and you've always just kind of carried around this guilt around carbs, drop me a thumbs up or drop me a heart so that I know I'm talking to you and I know I'm talking to my people, because that was definitely me. Oh good, I'm glad you need this. Well, yeah, let me know if you can relate as I'm talking, or if you're watching the recording, let me know. Hey Nicole, just drop me a thumbs up or a heart, and drop me a comment and let me know your favorite carb. That would be super fun as I'm talking about carbs. But let me know if that's ever been you, where you were just harboring all this guilt around carbs and you felt like carbs are the devil, or maybe that's still you. Maybe you've cut carbs out completely. Let me know, because I kind of like to know who I'm talking to. But that was me. So exactly, I think I was 12, and what I did exactly was I literally cut out bread, because I didn't understand really even what carbs were. I just thought carbs like, oh, bread and pasta. Okay, I won't eat those things. And I pretty much, from the time I was 12 to like 22, so a solid decade, really probably like 23, had a pretty off and on toxic relationship with carbs. And it was like an on again, off again thing. I would eat them, I would cut them. But I think so many of us are under the impression that if you want to drop weight quickly, you just cut carbs. That was definitely me. So I'm going to be talking tonight about the differences of types of carbs, because not all carbs are created equal. I'm going to talk about what they actually do in our bodies, and then I'm going to talk about why you can ditch the guilt, especially that, you know, next week is the holidays, or this week if you're celebrating Hanukkah. So I'm going to really talk about, lastly, just how to like ditch the guilt around them. So as you hop on, if you're watching live, if you're watching the recording, drop me a comment with your favorite carb, and give me a thumbs up or a heart if you have ever like had a bad relationship with carbs, you've been confused about them, kind of anything under the sun. Hey Angie, hey Valeria. So first and foremost, I want to just kind of talk about the different types of carbs, because not all carbs are created equal. And I think the big confusion, and I know there's been a lot in the news lately about like low carbs and, oh, low carb is back in. Vegan pizza, yes, vegan pizza is life. There's been a lot of talk recently, and the thing that people usually fail to bring up is the type of carb. Oh, but before I even go into that, I wanted to kind of start this. If you saw my video last Wednesday about why keto is bullshit, that was the title of my video. If you watched that video, I'm going to start this one much the same way I started that video, with just kind of addressing out in the open the good side of the argument, because I know I'm going to have people hop on and be like, but I lost 30 pounds doing low carb. And like, yeah, I don't doubt that at all. So I want to talk about the way it actually works, first of all, because I am not going to get on this video and tell you guys that you can't lose weight from going low carb. That's not what I'm here to talk about. I'm here to kind of talk about it in a little bit deeper of a sense, and like what actually happens to your body. And I will get to that, but first I'm just going to say flat out that you will definitely be able to lose weight by cutting carbs. I don't even know how many studies, but that's basically been shown beyond the shadow of a doubt that if you cut out carbs from your diet, you are likely to drop weight pretty fast. And that's the reason it's still hanging around. Low carb diets have been a thing since like the 1940s, the whole Atkins thing. Everybody's heard of that. Hey Mariah, hey Valerie. Thanks for watching. And now with the whole keto thing, which is kind of what inspired me to make this video, now low carb is back in an even more extreme way, because with keto, you're basically not supposed to eat any carbs. So the reason why low carb does work to lose weight is, first of all, like I said in my keto video, if you cut out any macronutrient from your diet, meaning carbs, protein, or fat, you're gonna lose weight, because more than likely, if you're used to eating things like sugary donuts and white bread and bagels and pasta, and you cut those out of your diet, you're all of a sudden, there's gonna be a hole in your calorie intake. And we all know, eat less calories, you lose weight. So I'm definitely not doubting that. That's the reason I did the whole low carb thing for so long. That's a whole nother story for another time, but I was super obsessed with being skinny. I was super obsessed with weight loss, a whole nother topic again. But I definitely would drop weight pretty instantly when I cut carbs out. So you're either going to throw yourself into a calorie deficit, which definitely equals weight loss. We're going to get more into that later, but on a surface level, yes, weight loss. Or what's going to happen to your body is when you cut carbs to an extreme degree, like with keto, where you're literally depriving yourself of like pretty much any, or at least a very, very small amount per day, your body goes into ketosis. And essentially, all that you need to know is when you're not giving your body carbs as a source of fuel, your body has to dip in and get fuel from something, right? Because it's like running your car on empty. You have to have something. So if it's not getting glucose from carbs, which is usually our main energy source, then you're going to start burning fat. You're going to start burning muscle, because your body has to have something. So that is why you're going to drop weight. You're going to drop fat. I don't discount that at all. So that kind of little disclaimer aside. Hey, Elizabeth, thanks for hopping on. Now I want to kind of talk about the types of carbs, because this is the kind of like the kicker that I think trips people up, and that really isn't talked about much in studies lately, and a lot of the studies that have come out recently about, oh my God, carbs are so bad. They don't really talk about good versus bad carbs, and there are good versus bad carbs. So what I mean by bad, let's see. I'm not sure about the B12 thing, but I will get into just what they do for your body in general. So I'll have to get back to you on that. I don't know specifically about B12, but yeah, let me know if I couldn't see the beginning of that question. But anyway, with bad carbs, we're talking about super simple things. So when they say a simple carb or a refined carb, what that means is things like donuts, white bread, white pasta, Pop-Tarts, cereal, something that's like a simple carb, meaning it's easily digested in your body. So I didn't understand what this meant for a really long time. Hey, Sarah. Hey, Krista. So when we say simple carb, what all that means is that your body is able to break that down really quickly and use it really quickly as a fuel source. So that's when you feel those sugar highs, because what's actually happening when you have a sugar high from something like a donut is your body's breaking down that carb, it's getting the sugar out of it really easily, and you're having this like immediate spike in energy, but then like 10 minutes, 15 minutes later, you're going to crash. And so those will be like the bad carbs. Good carbs are things like oats, whole grains, sweet potatoes, basically all the staples of what I eat in a normal day. Those are complex carbs, and all that means is your body has a little bit of a harder time breaking them down. So what happens is your body gets this like slow, steady, flatline stream of energy. You're not like spiking and crashing like this. You don't feel crazy, you don't feel jittery. You just get like a steady stream source of energy for a long time. It's going to make you feel full for longer, and it's going to give you long-lasting energy instead of those sugar crashes, which we've all had. Like, drop me a thumbs up if you've had a sugar crash and you know what I'm talking about. It feels really good, and then it feels really bad. Yeah, we've all had them. And long-term, those spikes and those dips from simple carbs, from sugar, which I could do a whole nother video on sugar, but we're really just focusing on carbs right now, which simple carbs are generally loaded with sugar. That like wreaks havoc on your body. That does lead to storing more of your fuel as fat. It's bad for your insulin levels. It's really just bad for your whole system. And so that is when people gain weight, is when they're eating super simple, easy to digest carbs, instead of the good carbs. So again, things like sweet potatoes, oats, whole grains, whole bread, like, whole wheat bread, that kind of thing. So that is kind of the big problem that I have when people talk about low carb, or they tell me that like, oh my God, I wish I could just stop eating bread or like potatoes. And I know that carbs in general have gotten this really bad rap, But what we fail to distinguish is the difference between good and bad carbs. And there was a really big study that just came out that I cited in my keto video last week that was supposed to be like the end-all be-all. I talked about it in that video, so I'm not going to go into it. But it was trying to basically show that carbs were the enemy. And the problem I had, and a lot of people had with that study, is it didn't break down the difference between good and bad carbs. So I am never going to get on here and tell you, you can eat all the carbs, you can eat all the donuts you want, go eat all the like Sara Lee white bread, it doesn't matter, carbs are good. No, there are two different types of carbs: complex, refined, carbohydrates give you a long-lasting energy stream. They're good for your body. And if you've ever tried to cut out carbs, I remember very distinctly back in high school, I think it was high school, maybe middle school, one of my cousins was on this low-carb diet, and I remember it was, I think, my little sister's birthday, and we were all having cake, and she wasn't having cake, and we'd gone to dinner, and she'd had, like, steamed vegetables, and she was like, I'm doing this low-carb thing, and she was losing weight, just like I lost weight when I did it, just like I'm sure any of you have lost weight when you went low-carb. And the problem was she was like, oh, I just feel like so lightheaded, and I feel like I have the flu. And I remember thinking, I was like, that's probably not normal. And in fact, if you look up like keto or Atkins or other really low carb diets, they'll tell you right there, like, it's totally normal to have flu-like symptoms the first couple of days. That's not normal. Like, that's your body telling you that there's something wrong. Ooh, spinach wraps. That sounds awesome. Yeah, great example. So that kind of flu-like symptom, that is not normal. That's what happens to your body when you cut out all carbs. Carbs are a massive source of energy. Carbs are a massive source of calories. They are a massive source of brain fuel. So literally what my cousin was describing, she was saying how she was like really ditzy and couldn't remember people's names and was just super like airy-fairy, lightheaded. That is because your brain needs carbs to function. They are essential for brain function. They're essential for every major system in your body. And when you cut them out, that's what happens. And again, drop me a thumbs up if you've ever felt that. I remember distinctly when I first got the crazy idea in my head when I was like way too young to be dieting, I was like, okay, I'm just going to have my sandwiches without bread. And I remember my mom like watching me eat, and she was like, why aren't you eating bread? And I was just some like bullshit, like, oh, I'm just not hungry. And I remember just feeling so lightheaded and just spaced out all the time, just like total space cadet. And there is a reason for that. Yeah, grains for your brains. You need them for your brain function. If you've ever tried to work out and you're not eating enough grains, I tell all of my clients, all of my challengers, you have to eat your carbs. I always eat carbs pre and post workout. So anyway, kind of moving into point 2, which I've kind of already said, that is basically what grains or carbs do for your body. If you're eating the right kind of carbs, they're going to give you energy. They're going to fuel your brain. You will literally turn into the ditziest human on earth if you're trying to restrict yourself from all carbs. And I know that I've felt that. I'm sure a lot of you guys have experienced that. And basically, if you look at, this is one of the points that I didn't get to in my video the other day, and I wanted to. Hey, Cheryl. Hey, Sarah. Thanks for hopping on. If you look at basically any culture on earth that has a traditional really long life expectancy, like the people in Okinawa. This was an example that I read about in this amazing book called Proteinaholic. It's by Garth Davis. If you haven't read it, you really need to pick it up. It basically is all about protein, but it also talks a lot about how we are obsessed with protein in this country is the premise. And the more protein we're eating, the less carbs we're eating. But if you look at all of the cultures who have traditionally lived the longest and have had the healthiest vitals across the board in basically every regard, if you look at what they're eating, a lot of cases, it's like 90% carbs. Sarah, when I was doing keto, I always felt hungover. Yeah, and I've talked to so many women in different Facebook groups I'm in and clients who have said the same thing. When they cut carbs, they felt groggy, they felt sick. That is your body telling you something. Like, your food should not make you feel sick, like Valeria said earlier. And I think it was the people in Okinawa, Japan, that he was looking at as like a case study for this book. And basically since the beginning of forever, their diet was largely sweet potatoes. They basically lived off of sweet potatoes, which are a carb and are also loaded with vitamins and amazing things for your body. And he kind of traced the development of this traditional culture and what they traditionally ate And then what happened to them when they came over and started adopting a more westernized diet, so eating less carbs, or if they were eating carbs, eating really processed carbs, eating more protein. Again, the book is called Proteinaholic. Changed my life, totally changed the way I eat. But basically, not surprisingly, their life expectancies all dropped. So as soon as they stopped eating the complex, healthy carbs like sweet potatoes, like whole grains, if you look at it, I'm going to forget the name of the book. I can't remember who wrote the book. Somebody I'm sure watching knows. But there's also a lot of research that looks at basically all cradles of civilization since the beginning of time. What have people eaten? They've eaten bread. They've eaten grains. They've eaten the things that they had available to them, and that's what was available was complex carbs, healthy whole grain carbs. And it's just like a modern Western thing where all of a sudden cutting carbs is trendy and things like Atkins and things like keto. So you really kind of have to look at the history, and you have to look at long term what's happened to these cultures where they've stopped eating the carbs and they've replaced it with protein and super high fat food and processed carbs. Their life expectancies plummet, and they all of a sudden have this host of Western diseases. Their cancer rates rise, their heart disease rates rise, all of it. And it's because they're not eating the complex carbs that our bodies are meant to digest and meant to use as a fuel source. And again, if you've ever tried working out, I see this all the time with the girls that I work with, where if they have been taught their whole lives that carbs are bad, and they come into my plan, which is very carb heavy, and they're like, oh my God, I'm allowed to eat bread, like I'm allowed to eat potatoes, all of a sudden they have more energy, they're building muscle better, they're burning fat better. Because if you're trying to work out or just live your day-to-day life, hey Megan, hey Andrea, thanks for hopping on, and you're trying to do it without carbs, you have felt that nasty flu-like symptoms, you feel run down, and you're really just trying to like drive a Lamborghini on an empty tank or like really shitty quality gas. And it just, you wouldn't do that with a car, so why do you do it with your body? It just doesn't make sense to me. So kind of just to move into my third and final thing that I wanted to talk about. Hey Amy. I really wanted to talk about the whole guilt around this, because I hear this all day long, and it really just makes me sad more than anything, because again, I was that girl who cut carbs for 10 years from like age 12 to at least 22. I was always counting my macros. I was always tracking every gram I ate. And I did want to share this story because this is like, if this isn't sad and pathetic, I don't know what is. Thanks, Shannon. But I distinctly remember this was like the day that everything changed. I wasn't a coach yet. I was super hardcore into my Fitness Pal, which is an app on your phone where you track your macros. And I was tracking every bite that I ate, and carbs were my main focus. So all I cared about was getting a six-pack. All I cared about was like, I wanted to be able to see like the veins in my abs, which whole nother rant. You have to be so ridiculously lean to do that as a woman. But I remember that we went to dinner. I think it was my mom's birthday or my sister's again. I guess a lot of my stories revolve around people's birthdays. But I remember we went to Olive Garden, and my family and I, like, we never really went out to eat very much, so it was kind of a big deal when we did. And it should have been something that was really fun. I remember I was in college, so my parents picked me up. It was like a free dinner. Any college kid should have been stoked about that. But all I remember from that entire dinner was I was sitting at the table at Olive Garden with my phone, the app pulled up on my phone, my Fitness Pal app, and I was under the table trying to calculate how I could eat 1/4 of an Olive Garden breadstick, 1/4 of one breadstick, without going over my allotted amount of carbs for that day, which, spoiler alert, I couldn't, because you can't go to Olive Garden and not eat carbs. And again, I'm not saying you should go eat Olive Garden carbs. Those are obviously not the greatest carbs. That's not what I'm talking about. But the point was, I was so hung up on this one thing. All I thought about was how many carbs I ate in a day. And if I went over by like 2 or 3 grams, like I literally remember I was like having a mild panic attack at Olive Garden, because I was like, I can't even eat a breadstick, and I'm going to have to pretend I'm not hungry. And I think I eventually ended up eating a half a breadstick, and it threw my calories off. It threw my carbs off for the whole day. I felt like shit about it the rest of the day, the rest of the week, and I ate like extra salad to make up for it. That is exactly what I hope nobody else ever does, because that is just not a way to live. And it doesn't even make sense because basically I was just going to bed hungry every night. I was cranky all the time. I don't know how I even passed my college classes. But that is the kind of thing I hear from women telling me. And again, if you've just hopped on live and you've ever battled with the whole carb thing, are carbs good, are carbs bad, if you've ever caught yourself saying things like, oh my God, I just can't be around bread, like otherwise I'm pretty healthy, but it's just bread, drop me a thumbs up, drop me a heart, because I know it's not just me. And I think this is a really common thing that like nobody talks about. But we've just been told our whole lives that carbs are bad. And I'm sure we've watched a mom or an aunt or an uncle or somebody diet, and carbs are always the first thing to go. And I just want to take away that guilt because I know we're about to go into the holidays. And I know there's about to be a ton of carbs everywhere. And I'm going to hear from a ton of you guys in January because I am fortunate enough to have a job where I get to talk to a lot of you one-on-one. And so many of you tell me, ugh, I would be healthy if I could just avoid the carbs. And that is just not true. Like I said, if you've just hopped on live, then watch the recording of this video after the fact. But they give you energy. Yes, Sarah, 100%. They give you energy. They fuel your brain. You cannot build muscle if you're not eating carbs. A lot of you guys know I am preparing for a fitness competition right now. I am sure that a lot of you guys would have a heart attack if you could see how many carbs I eat in a day, because everybody thinks that you can't eat carbs. And the more carbs that I eat, the more muscle I build, the more shape I am in. And I'm not going to get on here and tell you what to eat and how many. You'll have to actually get a meal plan for that. But the point is, carbs should not be the enemy. And it breaks my heart when people just perpetuate this belief, because I don't know, the Atkins diet has told us that, and we've seen so many things about it on TV and ads. And just like I said in my keto video, I want you guys to think about who is making money, who is profiting. If some other diet plan can come out and tell you that cutting carbs is the magic pill and it's the cure-all, and here, buy this low-carb energy bar, buy these low-carb gluten-free wraps, buy this low-carb bread. There is such a giant market in the low-carb industry. I don't know the numbers, but I'm sure it's multi-millions of dollars. You have to think about who's making money off that. And then you have to get back to the common sense and look at these cultures who have the longest life expectancies. Look at the healthiest people on earth. Look at what they eat. It's largely whole grain, unrefined, complex carbs. And then you have to just think about that in terms of common sense. Should you be feeling flu-like symptoms from cutting your food? Is that a good sign? Probably not. Yes, they give you energy, they fuel your body. I mean, I could go on and on about it all day, but the last thing I'll say is, I'm getting so keyed up. Again, you need a nutrition plan, you need a meal plan. That's what I use. That's what really set me straight and kind of kicked some common sense back into me. So I'm not going to go on this video and tell you guys, like, eat this many servings of carbs per day, because everybody's body is different. But you just have to think about it in terms of common sense. And it's not about cutting carbs and eating super high fat or super high protein. It's not about cutting fat and eating super high carbs. Like, you have to have some moderation with everything. Yeah, well, Sarah, I'll be posting the recording live, and then you can, yeah, I'll inbox it to you. I just read the rest. Yeah, 100%. Thank you. You have to have a balanced, moderate diet across the board. And I actually was asked to guest blog on this topic for a couple different fitness magazines recently. So I was doing a lot of research on this topic this time last year. And honestly, what every single health journal article that I found, what they all said was cutting carbs is just like any other diet. It's not sustainable. If it's something that you can't keep up for the rest of your life, don't even start it. And that's what I had to realize with my macro tracking, with my carb cutting. It wasn't something that I knew that I was going to be able to keep up, because I was cranky, I was hungry, I was miserable. All I thought about was the carbs that I couldn't have. I was jealous of everybody who was eating carbs around me. And it was just a really toxic relationship with food. And we are not put on this earth to deprive ourselves of a massive food group that people have been eating since the beginning of time. And with any diet, if you know that it's going to drive you crazy, if you know that you're going to be having dreams about food, and I see all these people posting these supposedly like funny, cute little memes about how much they just like want to eat cookies and pizza, but they also want to look good naked. Like, you guys have seen those memes, I'm sure, or the little gifs or whatever. And the whole point of this whole video is like, you can do both. Your body is designed to eat carbs. Your body is designed to eat fat. Your body is designed to eat protein in moderation. I'm not saying go crazy, and this is not a license for you guys to go out and eat donuts. Watch the beginning of the video if you're confused on that. But any kind of diet where you're putting yourself in this state of deprivation and can't have this, shouldn't have that, if I do have it, I have to beat myself up about it, that's not sustainable. So ask yourself before you start a diet this January or ever again, are you going to still be doing this when you're 50 or 60 or 70 years old? And if the answer is either no or yes, but I'll be miserable, then don't even start it. That's why I don't diet. That's why the meal plan that I follow is so common sense. I don't even think about it anymore. It's basically just a guarantee that I'm getting all the nutrients that my body needs. If I want to go have a whole pizza, I'm going to have a whole pizza. And the last thing I'm going to say, because if this convinced you of nothing, I do want to share one last little fact with you guys, which I had no idea about until fairly recently when I started researching all this. But it's actually been proven that if you eat something and then you guilt trip yourself about it and you feel bad and you stress about it, the effects of that bad food are like tenfold on your body. So for example, if you go eat a donut, that's one thing. Yeah, it's some sugar. Yeah, it's fat. It's not ideal. But if you go eat a donut and then you beat yourself up about it the whole rest of the weekend, what that stress and that cortisol and adrenaline actually does to your body is it takes the donut, which was already not a great scenario, but it's not going to kill you, and it makes your body hold on to that fat and hold on to that sugar, and it basically makes it as though you'd gone and eaten 10 donuts. So if you're going to eat something quote unquote bad, I hope you guys have pie and cookies this holiday. I hope you guys have donuts. I hope you guys treat yourself to pizza when you want pizza. But if you're going to do that, just for goodness sake, do not then go feel bad about it, because it just makes it like 10 times as bad. So yeah, I'm going to wrap things up. If you guys have any questions, I will be checking back on this video. I'm going to go eat dinner myself and eat some carbs. That's another thing. Carbs after dark is a BS slogan. I eat carbs after dark. It's dark here at 4 in the afternoon. So if you've been telling yourself you can't eat carbs after like 6 p.m., I think that's a load of crap too. So I'm going to go eat some carbs after dark. And I hope that you guys got something out of this. And if you know anybody who would benefit, I would really appreciate it if you'd share this or just like it or tag them below so that they can hopefully learn something too. And thank you guys for tuning in. Have a great Sunday night.